Speedway will occur on Saturday, August the 18th at the Culver City Teen Center in Culver City, California. And finally, the College Fest 2018 will occur at Dilworth Park in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So come on, everyone, raise your glass and let's celebrate our wonderful communities.
Started at a party, everyone was there. She had a couple pills on a little dare, but now she's missing class and she's dropping her pom-poms. Nobody knows where she is, not even her mom. Everybody thought she was the all-American girl. So there goes the books, it's all about the score. There goes the doggy, life is such a bore. There goes the family, she's got a new friend. There goes the looks, this is the end. I guess she really was the all-American girl.
Pick up heroin and you'll throw away everything you love. Share your stories on Instagram with #heroin.
How do you like your issues served? It better be straight, no chaser. So let's get back to Pastor C, your girl Ambeezy, and the Chief.
All right, so we are back from break. So let's get back to reading, writing, and running for your life. Are students safer this year? Once again, let me remind listeners that you can reach us by chat or at 702-425-7789. School violence has a terrible impact on the community and normally has warning signs. Our next guest, Dr. Annette Douglas, will explain some of the symptoms and the impact of school campus violence. Dr. Douglas, welcome to Straight No Chaser. Can you begin by talking about the warning signs of a possible armed attacker, and is this considered a mental health issue?
Well, thank you for having me. I'd like to answer your question by discussing not only the mental health reaction, interaction, pre-actions before the violence begins, but to talk about the prevention happening within the home, the school, and the church. And those are three institutional areas that the child, as the victim or the child who is the committing the crime. Mm-hmm. And those are their institutions that you would mainly find their growth and development. So in this case, schools now have a number of guidance counselors. Years ago, guidance counselors were instituted in the schools not only to help on the educational level of promoting good grades with the children, but as well as counseling and guidance for their behavior. And that has stopped. And it stopped many years ago due to funds, a lack of funds in the educational arena. Mm-hmm. However, since we've been having a number of violent crimes committed using guns, shootings in the school, and this has really been going on not just in the 90s, but the first one was back in 1764, and there was shootings. Well, guns were more available and more legal at that time than they are now. But they're happening now, and it's beginning to look like it's expected to happen. You can anticipate that it will happen. The guidance counselors especially those who are above the millennial age, they ask desperately for permission to counsel students in that area. And they beginning as under the Obama administration to look at the bullying as the first avenue. So some of the counselors are actually working overtime to not only meet the job description they've been given to follow along with the child's grades and helping them to move into the proper arena in their education. So these are people who have a value that was developed in their education in their own mental needs to help and nurture students who are going through the bullying tactics.
Right.
Now, if you look at the shooters, I heard you talk a little bit during the show about the shooters. Are they mentally ill? It's a fact that every individual has some sort or type of mental illness within them. That's a fact.
Wow.
Yes.
Whether or not it's inebriated to the point that it's acting out or showing out, no. But there is a climate of discussion within the behavioral aspects that develop at the time the person is prenatal and until the time that they are coming through the vocational development and home development, that those things appear. Now, the guidance counselor is trained to actually trained to see this happening within the child, but they're not permitted to talk to the children unless the children ask for it. They're not permitted to talk to the children even if the parent asks for it. The teachers have their hands full with educating the students, so unless they have a very aggressive student in the classroom, they may not go to the guidance counselor.
And
in Florida, where I'm currently living, recently, the Governor Scott has put out that in every classroom, the Florida motto is "In God We Trust," and in every school, and he's asking for every classroom that sign is put up in the school. Now, we're going to hear some feedback about that, I'm sure, coming from the federal administration, that this is something we don't do because, as you know, they took out in the Pledge of Allegiance, indivisible and under God. They took the under God out several years ago, but now Governor Scott is taking the position to say we will put this in all schools, in God we trust. And he's asking for it because of the many shootings that are occurring in Florida, the domestic violence that's occurring in Florida. And he's put that out because it begins, like I said, in the home, in the church, and the school. School doesn't happen as a first avenue for a young person's visibility. It's at home, and then it's in the church, if they're in the church. Now, as for having guidance counselors availability, recently, actually during the Obama administration, when bullying was becoming so highlighted, federal grants have been made available to educational institutions and religious institutions to help with guidance counseling for young people and young adults. There are grants, there is money available. A number of agencies, including the Department of Justice, have them at more than $50,000 for each approved application.
Wow.
And what that means is trying to help with developing, facilitating groups, social skills, fostering healthy communication, working with an anti-bullying climate to help the young people. Now, when we talk about what's happening in their home, a lot of the bullying stems from what the children are facing in their home, what they see, what they hear. Parents' discussions in front of their children, or sometimes a parent has a discussion and they really have to go outside so that the child doesn't take on a climate of mitigating violence, fighting with their peers, their siblings at home, and then coming into the school system. There was a young boy that a couple of years ago when he was in summer camp, he actually stood up. He was about 5 feet tall, maybe 12 years old, stood up and punched his summer counselor in the face because he liked the way she was looking at him. Well, immediately that parent took her son to the pastor and said, I need help. So it's up to parents to actually don't try to smother it, but go to those that they know that can facilitate and help them at home. And the pastor worked with the child, and this was 2 years ago. Just this week, while I was enrolling students in a private schools and performing arts schools that they have to audition, he was in line. Mm-hmm. And I asked him afterwards, I said, what happened? He said, you remember when I punched that teacher? I said, yeah, what happened? He said, I'll never punch another teacher. I'll never talk to my mother in a cross way. He said, Pastor laid it on me. I said, he hit you? He said, no. But what Pastor said to me and continued to talk with me over the year, he said, made a big difference in my life.
That's good.
And I was surprised to hear this now 14-year-old boy speaking like that.
That's good.
But that's what it takes. It takes not, as we know, not just the family at home, but the family in the churches, in the community, the neighborhoods that make a big difference. And the guidance counselors are speaking out. They are actually asking for help. They are actually saying, what can we do on our own? Some of them are coming to the churches to speak. Some of them are going out to the community centers to speak. Now, when we talked about even uprisings in large cities and police control and police enforcement, one of the areas that they talked about is behavior as well. And so that starts at home. Now, in 2013, I'm jumping around a little bit because I have a lot of information to try to put out in a short period of time. But in 2013, Jim Carrey, famous actor, he did In Living Color and a few other pieces, but he was asked to do a movie called Kick-Ass 2. Now, he started the movie, doing the directing and the producing and the acting, and they had a whole fledge of people out, and they were into about 2 months of production. And he was asked to do a shooting in a school. And this was about the same time that Sandy Hook, that shooting occurred. And he said, no, stop the movie. I'm not doing this production. I don't want to be a part of it. I have a personal value that says I will not hold a gun in my hand and direct it to anyone, and I'm not going to do it. It would cost him millions of dollars, but he was blackballed in Hollywood for doing it, and for the first time this year, he's now able to do an HBO series. But he was blackballed for saying no. And that's what happens, is that you have to stand up and say no. Now, at that point, Jim Carrey also donated a couple of $1 million towards the violence in the schools and just try to help violence out of the schools and supporting a number of institutions in the same area, but not supporting gun control. Here in Florida, it's legal to carry a gun.
Right.
They even send out messages and do blast telephone calls saying, come and get your gun license. Get your gun license. And I said to my own, once you get your license, what are you going to do with it? Somebody's going to take it away from you, and you're the one that's going to be hurt. So what are you going to do, point it at an individual? But we don't have animals pointed at, endangered species coming towards us or so. But this is what is happening in this state, in Florida. There's also, as you know, from the police position, from the security position, that usually if there's an outbreak of violence in a major city, you can expect to see another similar type of outbreak of violence in another major city. Right. If there's an outbreak of violence in a correction institution, you can expect to see an outbreak of violence in additional correctional institutions throughout America. So this is what's happening with the school system as well. It's a public institution. The outbreak of gun shootings in one area, you can expect to see it in another, because there are no consequences brought against the individuals. This young man in the shooting here in Florida, I forgot the name of it, but the school in Palm Beach County, they're still carrying him through the system. He is so happy being where he is because he has a bed to sleep in every night, and he gets 3 or 4 meals a day. He wasn't getting that before. After the death of his mother, he went on a rage. He had a family who was looking after him, but that family didn't nurture him, and he lost that. His brother, who began starting some violence after he was arrested, he went before a female judge that said, I'm going to put you on probation. And that probation means the next time you do anything or you come anywhere near that school, I'm going to escort you out of the state. Now, that's not enough, because if he's escorted out of this state, he'll go to another state.
Right, right.